Okay, here we are in week 4. I've called this week the well-crafted objective. I think a better title may have been getting to the why. And you're going to see what I mean by that as we dive in. So whatever your learning experience might be about, you've got some objectives, you've got some goals in mind for what it is you want it to achieve. We could talk about those, and we will talk about those as learning objectives, performance objectives, business objectives. We'll talk about the difference between each of those. But you need to know what those are really before you can set out to design it. And so part of the discovery process, when we look at those 5 Ds, part of that discovery process is really understanding what is it that we're trying to achieve? What is the why? Why are we doing this? You might discover through that process that learning or training is not the answer. There might be some other things going on. If at the end of that process you realize, okay, there are specific objectives that can be achieved through a learning experience, that's when you get into this work, and you need to be defining objectives that are measurable, that are realistic, they're action-oriented. So this week we're going to hear from a few new voices from the field. We've got some folks who are engaged in training, technology training. We've got an independent learning experience designer. We've got someone who does training in the financial services industry. We've got a chief learning officer from a global technology firm. And I've asked these folks about what is it that most people don't get quite right about defining objectives for a learning experience, right? And how can we go about that work more effectively? I learned a lot from interviewing these folks, and I think you'll learn a lot from hearing from them as well. I've also curated a bunch of other articles for you to take a look at. One of them is called Designing Lively Training with Action Mapping by Kathy Moore. Her website in general is chock full of resources that you might find really useful if you're in the training space, a workplace learning and development type of work. Action mapping is a model by which you can really zoom in on what it is your training is trying to achieve, from the business objectives to the performance objectives to the learning objectives. At the end of this week, you're going to submit the final version of your learner persona, that completed learner profile portion of your CDD template. So you'll take the feedback that I submitted to you earlier this week, you'll improve upon that document, and you'll get it back to me. And then the next step for next week, you'll start writing the objectives for your identified learning experience design project. So you ready? Let's dig in.